Hello and welcome to Our Time. Brain injury can happen at any time, from birth to an unfortunate accident. It leaves the injured confused and families devastated, but there is help. And a special week coming up to better inform you about all things on this subject is Liz Forsyth. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Brain Injury SA. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Liz also holds a postgraduate diploma of social science in rehabilitation and a Master of Business Administration. She commenced her career as an occupational therapist, and Liz brings an extensive experience in both rehabilitation and management through positions held in England, New Zealand and Australia in the not-for-profit and commercial sectors. It can be a result of an accident, tumours, infection, poisoning, lack of oxygen, degenerative neurological disease, and that's a mouthful. Welcome, Liz. I'm sure you can say those words better than me.
Neurological. Neurological.
Thank you very much. Liz, that's quite a wrap-up. You've been all over the place.
I have.
So you really know your business. And the reason we're talking is because of that you do know your business. I guess one of the things that I had never considered before talking to you was that brain injury can actually happen in the womb.
Look, it can, but it's not classified under acquired brain injury.
No, I understand that. But the fact is, it can be really that early in our life that could happen.
There are impacts on the fetus, yes, can be. Things like fetal alcohol syndrome that is causing the damage before the baby is born, although it's classified as an ABI.
Yes, I understand that. So one of the hard things to fathom is we see a lot of people either in wheelchairs or who are not coping with life all that well. And until talking to a friend, I didn't actually realise this organisation existed. So tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, look, Brain Injury SA has been around for over 30 years. And it was started by families who really identified the need to have a specialist service that really focused on brain injury, because brain injury, I mean, all disabilities are different, but the nature of brain injury is that no two brain injuries are the same. So everybody experiences brain injury a bit differently, and the kinds of things that impact people is often misunderstood, and often misunderstood at the time by services that existed for people with very different types of disability. And they said, no, we need a specialist service. We really think that our loved ones need that specialist focus. They need a safe space where brain injury is understood.
And also to be able to repair some of the damage.
That's correct.
By using other parts of the brain.
Absolutely, to have the right kinds of intervention and therapy that was really tailored to the needs of people with brain injury, and also to advocate really on what the impact of brain injury did in society and how we could respond better as a community.
Well, it's not only the person, of course, that's injured, it's everybody around them.
Exactly right.
The intimate friends and family. But then it's even like going to the shop, I suppose. You know, if you look like there's nothing wrong, that you can't tell that somebody has a brain injury, but you might be a bit slow organising something. We've just got to be really careful, don't we? We
do. And brain injury is often considered the invisible disability, because people can actually be leading very full and effective lives, but do have problems in managing certain aspects of that, and things like fatigue, and sometimes people have communication difficulties, that people think they're drunk or they're silly, and that they don't know what they're doing.
That's what I mean. Yes, exactly. So we've got a picture here of what the brain actually looks like. I mean, this is no news to anybody in particular. I don't think it's in those colours exactly, but what's interesting about this to me, and one of the reasons we want to have a look at this, is how many sections there are to the brain without sort of thinking too much about it. And the fact that the brain has the ability, with the correct, I suppose, information or exercises or whatever, to sort of rewire itself. And with the picture here we've got inside your head, it's really hard to sort of think, when you look at a face, oh, hello, all that's going on inside.
Yes. And the fact that each bit of your brain does something different.
Yes,
that makes your life what it is. And therefore, if you get if any of that brain gets damaged, it affects that particular bit of function that you utilise that bit of the brain for.
Well, also the statistics of people who suffer from brain injuries. I was interested to see this next graphic that we've got. Oh, that's taking care of your brain, obviously. This one here, I didn't realise this. In Australia, around 1 in 45 people have ABI. Just explain ABI.
Well, that ABI stands for acquired brain injury, and that's a term that we use generically for brain injury acquired after birth. But 1 in 45 is actually quite an old statistic. We think that's probably not accurate. We think that's probably quite a bit higher than it is now. And we become more aware of people having damaged their brain from everything from motor accidents, but also sport has been a lot in the media.
Definitely. Also, the 3/4 of those people were 65 or over.
Actually less than 65, so under 65.
Yes. But there's two things we're talking about here too. One is, for example, with sport, and there's a lot of discussion at the moment with some of the more active rugby or even Australian rules games where men are just running into each other.
Men and women as well.
Of course.
And I think sport is
this is just another graphic. I mean, interesting to see these statistics.
Yes, certainly that's really showing that there is a disproportionate amount of people, certainly the fact that the age bracket in which brain injury falls, is more predominantly men. Certainly 66% are men, that 80% are aged 35 years and older. So it's not you think it's a young person's thing, but it's actually...
Because they're out and about.
They're out and about, people driving, it's a very, frequent cause of brain injury.
Yes.
So the things that people are doing are causing brain injury. Then people have heart attacks and they have a loss of oxygen to the brain, and that can cause brain injury. People can have strokes, which people would be familiar with. So there are so many different causes.
And I suppose dementia too, because of the brain shrinking, I guess, as time goes on.
Yeah, the brain dementia is often associated with ageing, but it's also a disease in itself of the brain, exactly. So it can affect younger people as well.
Yes.
Absolutely, it can be that can be part of the suite of impacts on the brain that can cause damage.
It's terrifying, isn't it? Because you only get one brain. And we're not to the point of having a brain transplant if anything goes wrong.
No.
Because it's us.
It's absolutely us.
So taking care of yourself. I suppose this opens up a lot of other aspects. I mean, do you stop, for example, kids playing sport when they're young in case they're impacted or they fall or hit in the head with something? Or do we start doing that, or do we investigate more structural things that bodies can wear to be more...
I think prevention is better than cure or avoidance, and sport is part of life, and it's an important enrichment of life, like the arts and everything that makes up who we are. But we do have to develop more prevention. We need to develop more education and understanding of the impact of brain injury and get people to take more care. And absorb more rules about how we can look after our heads. Right.
But we were talking before about some of the programs in place to help people who have had brain injury get back into normal life, or as normal as it can be for them.
Yes.
I mean, one of the great examples, I think, is Charles, who's doing currently sport on the ABC in the breakfast show. And I believe he had an accident.
I think a spinal injury, not a brain injury. So he...
All connected, though.
Yeah, all connected,
So,
yes.
Being able to continue having a career even in television, it just shows that with some sort of tenacity, you can change your life.
Oh, absolutely. There are some amazing stories of people whose strength, support, just their sheer desire to do better or to, rechange their life to cope with what's happened to them.
But it's also to have the will to do that and the encouragement of people around them.
Absolutely. Everybody needs support, and some people have very fantastic support from their families. Unfortunately, sometimes people do experience, relationships do fall apart after injury, but
'Cause you're not the same person.
you're not the same person, and your whole family is learning how to cope, and you're learning how to cope with that. So it's a devastating experience and life-changing experience.
Understandable. Well, look, we'll come back in a moment because we'll be talking about just exactly what this brain injury organisation does and helps provide, and helps people who are going through this unfortunate period of their life. We'll be back in a tick. Welcome back. Liz Forsyth is our guest, and we're talking about brain injury. It's not all doom and gloom, is it, Liz?
It's certainly not all doom and gloom.
Not good when it happens. It is doom and gloom when something happens.
It's extremely scary and life-changing, as we were saying before. But there are so many things that can be done, and certainly change can happen over long periods of time.
Well, let's talk about some examples of how your organisation can assist.
Yeah.
Just pick a subject.
Pick a subject.
Because as you said, there's so many different things that can happen.
Yes. Well, I think adjusting, so that whole transition from the life I led before my brain injury to who I am and the life I want to lead and can lead after brain injury. And we run a program called Reconnect Transition, which brings together people who are going through that adjustment with the support of a psychologist, and they explore all sorts of different aspects of life, everything from, healthy eating, looking after your health, to managing your relationships, to exploring your work options, to
How did we manage before these things were available? I mean, what you just said before about families coming together to form the organisation.
Yes.
You realise this is really how so many of these organisations begin.
Oh, well, absolutely. And I've been around long enough to remember when this organisation was started by the woman who campaigned for it, one of the women that campaigned for it. So we do see change. We do see things grow, and more knowledge gathers more services, I think.
So in your experience, because you've worked in occupational therapy, is that
originally, not for many years, but
no,
directly.
but that knowledge would be helpful, I imagine.
It is very helpful, and I work with a team of allied health specialists, people who specialise in brain injury, and so it's really, we do talk the same language. I do understand what they want to see happen, and we work together on how we can make things happen, how we can develop new services, how we can respond to the things that our clients are telling us that they need.
Because it's not only, you've hit your head or you've been mangled in an accident, but it's the parts of your body that don't work anymore properly.
Yes.
Or your ability to clearly think about something through. How do people cope with that?
Well, we have a team of specialist allied health professionals, and we have physiotherapists, we have occupational therapists, we have speech pathologists, psychologists, and they work together with the individuals. So we start with really, what does the person want to see happen, and what do they want to work on, what do they want to see change? And that's what we focus all our therapy and intervention on, is how we can get the person from where they're at to where they want to be, in whatever shape or form is possible.
So it could be a physical thing, or it could be a mental stimulation.
People can have physical problems with their mobility. They can have problems with their speech and their swallowing. They can have problems
There's
just doing day to day.
something you never think about. Without being able to swallow.
Yeah. Or it can be quite dangerous.
Good. Yes. Not easy to cope with.
Yes, indeed. And so,
how on earth do you fix that, or help with that? How do you fix that, or help somebody?
The speech pathologists work on that, and they also work on modifying your food so that you can swallow
that makes sense.
What's effective, and take an assessment as to what's the best meal plan for you and how to work with you on that.
But is it about trying to get the muscles in the throat to work again? Is it a connection?
I think it's a combination of therapeutic interventions and also management of that problem. They have lots of techniques that they use.
How far has technology come, say, in the last 30 years.
Yeah, that's a really interesting. Look, 30 years, hugely, and the use of technology is really changing people's lives. We talk about assistive technology that's changing all the time. So people develop a device that you can open a door with, you can pull a blind down, that you can use for your communication. It is revolutionising, really, the kinds of interventions that.
Well, I have arthritis in my hands, and I didn't know how do you cope with that sort of thing, and discovered compression gloves, which gave me the opportunity to do a whole lot more.
Yes.
It's a very minor thing by comparison to what we're talking about, but who knew?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's information on the internet, but maybe you can't even get to that point yet.
Well, I think a lot of people do feel they don't know where to start, and that's where an organisation that does specialise in brain injury is really helpful, because you can talk to people who are working in this field every day, who are keeping up with what is the technology that's around, and we will research for an individual. If we don't know the solution, we'll go out and see what we can find.
Gee, that's interesting. Have you got a big staff of regular people, or is it people you call in for specific needs?
No, we have a team that's it's about 39 FTE. It's about 30 people.
Well, what's important to say, we're talking about South Australia, but we know that this is a national. Your organisation is part of a national organisation.
Well, it's a funny national network, really, because there's different services in different states, and they all have a different kind of emphasis. Certainly in Victoria, there's a couple of services that specialise in peer support, which is another form of adjustment, having somebody who works with you who's gone through the same thing themselves.
It'd be very encouraging, I would imagine.
It's very handy, and we run a peer support program in South Australia as well. And then there's also, in Victoria, there's specialist services, AR Bias or R Bias. They run a program of services, and they do quite a lot in drug-related and alcohol-related brain injury as well, I believe. So,
well, there's a whole area that obviously is becoming a bigger and bigger problem now.
Well, I think it is a bigger and bigger problem, and I think, again, it's all about that prevention, looking after our brains as best we can is really important.
Yes, it's education, isn't it? But it's hard sometimes, like with vaping at the moment, there seems to be a correlation between vaping in young people and issues with the brain. And having been a reformed smoker, you just don't realise what damage you're doing to yourself until after the event.
Yeah.
And then you think, why on earth did I ever do that?
Yes, and our brains are very precious.
One brain.
Yeah, very precious, very important.
Is this something that can you go home at night and not have to worry about it anymore? I mean, because these things can become so personal when you're involved in something like this.
Yes. Look,
have you thought about that before?
I haven't thought about that before. I am able to. I think when you work with people with disabilities, they inspire you as much as they challenge you,
Yes.
And I think you take that strength from them to go on and do the next day and do the next thing. And
it's a good way to put it, actually.
We're all problem solving, but we're doing it together.
Well, I guess one of the most important things about humans are that we do have this ability to help each other, and it's an inherent ability, but sometimes we don't know how we can help. So there's a week coming up, isn't there?
There is a week, Brain Injury Awareness Week, starts on August the 19th, and we have special events.
That's here in South Australia.
Here in South Australia, although it is a national week. It is about bringing people's attention to brain injury and helping people understand what brain injury means and what sort of assistance is out there. We always have a launch at the beginning of the week, and that is also a great celebration of, we talk about the brain injury community, but that's people who are living with brain injury who get a lot of strength from coming together and celebrating what they've achieved and what has the connection they have with each other. And I think it's a lovely combination of people coming together. We also, during COVID, went online, So it's now an online event, so you can connect online or you can attend in person. Actually, I think it's a webinar. I think it's
a webinar.
So you watch it as online. You can't participate personally.
You can't
in that.
chatter
No,
and confuse everybody.
No.
Which screen? Where have you gone on the screen?
That's right.
I knew very little about this, apart from talking with people who have brain injury and who have, in fact, overcome a lot of the problems that they had. And most of them have said when they've come to terms with that and worked on themselves to try and overcome it, they've all said the same thing. If you ask them the question, are you sorry that this happened? And they all say, not really, because I've learnt so much, both about myself and how to live in the world in a different way. We take for granted that we can just zoom through life without restriction.
Well, I think injury is just one of those other life experiences, and I think you're absolutely right. People do learn things about themselves. They learn things that they didn't know, strengths they didn't know they had. And I think you see some incredibly supportive relationships as well that are really inspiring, the way families can rally around people. And
if you loved somebody before,
you work with them, and it doesn't mean it's easy, but
But if you love somebody before,
you work through it.
Yeah.
And I can think of a young woman that we work with who said to me before her brain injury, she didn't think she had any purpose in her career, and she's now trained. She's come through brain injury. She's trained as an allied health assistant, and she loves it. And she has said, this has given me purpose.
That's what I mean, yeah.
So
that's the stories I've so often heard.
Yeah.
Liz, we're going to take another short break and we'll
Sure.
be back in a moment. We've been talking about the South Australian Brain Injury Association with Liz Forsyth. Liz, this special event is coming up, a special week.
Brain Injury Awareness Week.
Yep. And there's an exhibition.
Part of Brain Injury Awareness Week launch, there is an exhibition of people's creative works, and people living with brain injury who have taken up art or other types of creative work that we display, and they love to share that, and it's an opportunity for us to
And the
see
theme
what
this
people
year
are
is
doing.
hope, strength, empowerment.
That's correct, and we have a wonderful keynote speaker in Mia Fordman, who is coming down from the Northern Territory. She's an Aboriginal woman who's going to talk about her experiences of brain injury through domestic violence, which is another aspect of brain injury we haven't touched on.
I just call to notice there's a QR code there, and you can get a bit more information from that QR code. If you rip out your phone immediately and point it at the screen, you could be lucky.
Yes.
But we'll leave some more information.
We look forward to hearing from anybody who's interested in displaying if they have lived experience.
But also, I guess it's more than that, is because everybody's looking for volunteers these days to just help out with who knows what if you're volunteering, and that can also open up a world for you.
Yes, we are always welcome people to express an interest in volunteering with us. We have a few specific roles, but we also are always looking to fundraise, and we're going to be launching a foundation in August as well, and there'll be opportunities for people to help us with that.
But it's not only that, the research is expensive, and we need the best people in the world to be doing that to help in every way possible.
Yes.
And governments can't pay for everything.
Well, they can't pay for everything, and there's lots of things that we identify with our community that they need, and we really look at ways we can provide that to them. And
Liz, thank you so much. I mean, all of these things are just becoming more aware for all of us to understand that these organisations exist initially, but if you do have an accident, it's not the end of life.
That's correct, absolutely.
Thanks again, and good luck with the special week. So everyone, until next time on Our Time, thanks for joining us, and keep yourself nice. Till next time. Bye.